Okay, guys, I think we're streaming already. As everybody gets in here, as you can see, today's topic is foreign policy. What I'm going to do though, hold on, I've got to get, I want to get the comments lined up here so you guys can see the comments as they come in. There we go. We should be good there. Hello, go ahead, Dan, this black guy. Good to see all you guys here already. What I'm going to do before we get into Chuncho, good to see you. Happy Potato and Mercy. Before we get into today's topic, though, what I'm going to do is, because I don't have the time, and I spent way too much time on it last time, to really go through and answer as many comments as I would like in these videos once they post to the channel. What I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and I'm sorry, I'm distracted as I'm trying to think things through. I want to go through and answer some of the comments from last time on this stream. I just thought of something I just dramatically forgot to do, so I gotta make a quick change on the other channel. I apologize, you guys, for having you come in here and then be piddling around with this, but I completely forgot to do this. Let's see. Come on. And that's not working. Yeah, we're going to go in and answer comments from last time. As soon as I get this done, again, I apologize for doing this on camera. I forgot to do something at the end of our last stream that needed to be done. And I don't want to let it go. Come on, you can do it. So if I just got to make this correction. What the hell I was thinking. How do I feel about Trump? I voted for Trump. How I feel about him is complicated. Some of his stances, some of the things he wants to accomplish are still stuff I'm behind. The way he's handling himself, I do not care for at all. At all. Let's see. All right, I just about got this taken care of, guys. I apologize for this. And that's taken care of. Okay, we're all set. Okay, now let's go, and I'll get right back to your, let's go back to, I've got the page up here. Where is it? Okay, I'm going to take my face off here for just a second as we do this. I know no one likes to see my face have to go, but okay, let's get me off of here. Okay, some of the comments from last time. Ryan and I had a conversation. This was started out at Cenk Unger's speech. As many of you know, Cenk is a very liberal speaker. Had a conversation with Ricky Spanish about Bernie and his tax plans. More with Ryan. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is what happened to me this day is I love chatting, talking politics with all you guys, of course. So what happened in this case was I spent so much time responding to the comments here that I got like nothing done. You guys who are with me all the time know about my time schedules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and at the beginning of each video, we'll talk about some of the comments in the last videos. They're from Common Roots. Yeah, this was Vance thought that I confused socialist with communist, which is not really the case. Socialist and communist, particularly from the standpoint of finances, are very similar. That's all. Let's see. Good stream. Wish I could watch when I was in school. Glad I watched Curtis Russell. Similar in political views. Angel. Make sure I'm calling this. I got these in the right spot. Government has no business in my health care. The only thing the next amendment should say is the Affordable Health Care Act is hereby repealed. I wouldn't go so far, and you guys know how to say the government has no business in my health care. I don't want the government solely responsible for health care. That's just my personal stance on it. Now, as soon as I read some of these, I'll get back to our live comments so I can see what you guys are saying about it. State personal tax, income tax in the Republic of Texas, 0% for everyone, no loopholes. No sales tax on basic food and rent, no egregious alive tax. Yeah, well, Texas is obviously very conservative in general. Some of the big cities are getting a little more liberal, though. This is just talking about the England is my city line being a joke. There's a fun stream, political views. I live in Canada. So the American political system is something of a mystery to me. Due to the fact that we're close neighbors and allies, we feel the ripples of your leaders' decisions. That's true, Philip, which has been something of a trend in terms of our shared history. The problem is the sewage system one has to wade through to learn. That's for sure. He's pretty moderate in his politics. Believes the church has no business interfering in state's business. Agree with that 100%. In terms of healthcare, I believe Obamacare should be flat repealed. There's a lot of sentiment for that. Now, Justin had a whole, and these are the comments on the last video we had on the channel about healthcare. If you guys want to read these all the way through, Justin has I think, some really good ideas here. I don't, as most people aren't going to be simpatical right down the line. There's some of them that I would modify, but yeah, I like some of his ideas. And I'm with Luminary too. I'm okay with repealing as long as there's some sort of replacement. I think that just about covers. Paul and I had a long conversation on here. Very good conversation. Well, all the conversations have been so far phenomenally good. Now let me get back up to the live comments. Now, and again, we're going to get to today's topic, but there's always going to be a little bit of. Let me put my window back up and take this one down. There's always going to be, it's always good to get back and talk a little bit about where we left off last time. If anybody has any closing, well, not closing, but for the moment, closing comments on healthcare or anything, let me know. We can discuss them real quick before we get into today's topic. My not Obamacare one got read. Government should pay for critical healthcare and private insurance for regular healthcare. Galahad, that's similar to my beliefs. That's a component of my beliefs. I believe that the government needs, when it comes to healthcare, to really help the working poor, people that are out there working and trying to get ahead and are just getting swamped under, because the whole concept, it relates to so many other things. The whole concept of going with a nationwide $15 an hour minimum wage is ludicrous. I mean, it would just, as far as I'm concerned, destroy the economy, but that's a topic for another time. But given that I feel that way, the working poor, the people who are working those jobs, need help with healthcare. And I think that should come as a combination of required healthcare provisions by employers, particularly large employers, and the government pitching in. Taking care of poor is charity, not government. I don't agree down the line with that, R.W. Bimby. I mean, and trust me, I'm for keeping the government out of our business as much as possible, but I do believe that as a society, you can't help, as much as I don't like the concept of socialism at any level. Whether you want to call it straight up socialism, democratic socialism, whatever the case may be, I'm not for it. But you do have to have, as a responsible government, you have to have social programs. So I'm all for the government being involved in people's lives and giving people a hand as long as they're trying to help themselves. So you do have that person out there working a job, or maybe even two jobs, and they're unskilled workers and they're working wherever they can, whether that's in a lumber yard or in fast food or whatever. I personally don't have a problem with a portion of my taxes going to help that person pay for their health care and the things they need. And that's the way I see the things. But when you start talking about single payer, first of all, I think it would end up resulting in a civil war once the regular Americans got the tax bill for such a thing, because trust me, you cannot pay for it with the measures that Bernie Sanders outlined. For instance, it's not going to cover the cost, and it's not even close. And I think it's irresponsible to suggest that it is. So I don't think that's an option. But single payer doesn't make sense anyway, because you have people like me and millions of people in America right now who do have really decent health insurance through their employer. Why dismantle that? The first thing we should do is leave that alone and then move on to the areas that need improvement. We're going to be talking about foreign policy today, Joe. Just at the beginning of each stream, we go back to the prior stream just to, tie up any loose ends that anybody wants to talk about. State-based instead of nationwide. I'm with you, Frenzied Chaos, in the respect that even when the federal government money is used, yes, I think it should be funneled through the states. Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think the states could pull it off on their own. but I think with some federal government assistance they could. Brussels turning on Poland. George, I'm not super familiar, and I'd like to actually understand more about that. I'd like to have you fill me in more on that. I make it a policy because it's the one sure way to make yourself look like an idiot is to comment on something that your knowledge is very limited on, and I'm very, very limited knowledge on that, and I'd love to get more details. I love learning through these things, through these streams. The government is all hell. That's not incorrect, unfortunately. Happy potato. One on a fighter jet that doesn't work. Whenever I see people complain about the single pilot is somehow fiscally irresponsible. Well, Mercy, as far as I'm concerned, and you see that a lot, you see people comparing the cost of healthcare to the defense budget. And for me, there's no greater example of apples and oranges. Because whether or not we've made shrewd purchases as a government towards our military spending or not, you got to have that military spending, especially in today's world. I mean, the world is internationally more dangerous today than it has been certainly since the Cold War. I don't feel we can afford in any level to let our dominance militarily drop off an iota, or the whole landscape of the world is going to change, and then how our healthcare is structured isn't going to matter as far as I'm concerned, because I think it will lead to something. You've got a lot of crazies out there, and even semi-crazies out there, who are looking for an opportunity to take an advantage of an America that's seen as not the military powerhouse of the world. So I'm comparing what a fighter jet costs to what healthcare would cost. I just don't get the connection at all. When you're talking about building stuff that has never been built before with technology that's never been seen before, you're going to have some lemons. I'm not sticking up for the government on that behalf, but we have to understand that maybe not all the technology is going to work the way we want it, but we still have to make those efforts to stay ahead. Fuck the EU and fuck the UN. Not fans, huh Luke? Well, thank you, Rami. The overall danger rate has gone down in today's world than it has 10 years ago, contrary to the fear. I would disagree with you, Luminary. I would really disagree with you. Simply because the most obvious reason being a nuclearized North Korea. I mean, it's one thing when we're dealing with Russia or something where there is always that element of mad, mutually assured destruction that kind of keeps things in tow. Kim Jong-un doesn't care. Look at what he does to how he treats his own people. He doesn't give a shit. He's not worried. And I don't know the man personally. Just my take on it is I think he's so far gone. I think he's gotten himself into such a state where he believes he truly is a deity that he thinks, I honestly think in his mind, he thinks he could take out the U.S. in a nuclear exchange. And that's scary dangerous. And I think where Russia is right now is very scary to us. Where Iran is right now is very scary to us. I would disagree on us being more safe now than we were 10 years ago. Watching garbage fires are fun, Polo says. I guess 10 years tops before everyone dies. As sinister as that sounds, my big butt, I give us more than that. But I don't like to be a Debbie Downer, but goddamn, there's a lot of different avenues where you could be right. A lot of them. And Obama cooked us by hating Iran. I was not a fan of Obama's policies towards Iran myself. Even though some, and I'm willing to give every president the benefit of the doubt. I think most of the things that past presidents have done that I disapprove of, I think for the most part were well-intentioned on their behalves. And that's how I like to look at things. I don't think any president in recent memory, any president possibly in history, was ever out to screw the country. I just think they were well-intentioned and maybe just didn't do things the way that I would have liked to see them done, or maybe a lot of other people would like to see them done. But I think Obama was well-intentioned. I think the Bushes were well-intentioned. I think Bill Clinton was well-intentioned. Richard Nixon, for that matter, was well-intentioned. as far as standing up for America. How do I feel about Black Lives Matter? A little off topic for today. Any group that I understand the movement initially, and I do understand why they say Black Lives Matter, and people get upset and say all lives matter. That part doesn't bother me. Them saying Black Lives Matter doesn't bother me because I understand what they mean. They mean they're saying Black Lives Matter because they feel like that has to be said. In other cases, it doesn't have to be said. It's a given. So I get that. What I don't like is how they choose their battles, because they come flying in defense of people that shouldn't have been defended. That's my issue with Black Lives Matter. Just because a person of color might get shot by an officer doesn't mean that that officer did wrong. Now, granted, they've taken up some cases that I'm 100% behind. There's going to be bad police officers like there's bad anything else in the world. But I wish they would choose their battles much more carefully. That's the only thing I can say about Black Lives Matter as far as downside. There are elements of Black Lives Matter that are definitely domestic terrorism, I believe. Elements. But that's another problem with Black Lives Matter. It's a scattered organization with no real leadership. So there are elements of it, sections of it. Yes, I agree. Let's see. Do you think Kim is the last biggest world threat? I think he's, Filthmonger, he's the biggest threat towards peace throughout the world. I think he is most likely going to be the instigator behind the next military conflict, major military conflict in the world. Put it that way. I don't think he's a threat in the respect that he can hurt some people, and I think that's the only reason he hasn't been taken out, because I think when push comes to shove, he's gonna kill a lot of people in South Korea. I hope I'm wrong, but I think he's a threat in that he's absolutely insane, and I just don't think he's playing in the world of reality, and he's got nukes. Israel versus Palestine. Another area, again, I don't go too deep, and I like to hear what you guys think, because my knowledge, I understand the issues between Israel and Palestine. For the most part, I've been pro-Israel. I don't like some of the things that they've done, some of the ways they've conducted themselves. However, I do think that they are in a really, really tough situation over there. Talk about being, in the literal sense, between a rock and a hard place. You can't be in a worse position than Israel is right now. Iran can reach Israel to nuke it. Exactly. I mean, Israel's in a tough. Well, I mean, that's an understatement of the millennia. Israel's in a tough spot, literally and figuratively. Israel is in a brutally tough spot. Happy Potato gives us 15 to 25 years till we all die. And that's what, and I understand that. I see where you guys are coming from with it. And that makes me sad, because I want all of you, I mean, you guys are mostly all younger people. I want you guys to be able to enjoy long lives like I've been able to enjoy. That's where it really makes me sad. Yeah, Tal, I am. Oh, you're from Israel? Again, that's generally where I lean, is pro-Israel. Choked up to colonial British being douchebags. Right now, Israel is definitely in the wrong, having committed several. Well, that's what I was alluding to, Luminary, is the way they've conducted themselves doesn't sit well with me, doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But we have to take all things into consideration, and no, war crimes are never acceptable. But goddamn, they're in a tough spot as far as their own survival. Brussels is going against Poland because they don't want to take it. I wanted to read this. Don't want to take in any economic migrants or refugees. So yeah, most of Eastern Europe and Central Europe is not happy with Brussels over this. Brussels is going against Poland because Poland doesn't want to take in any migrants, right? But I don't understand how one can logically be upset at a nation for not wanting to get involved with taking in refugees when they see what's going on elsewhere. I mean, let's just call it the way it is. I don't understand how. Now, I'm not saying whether or not it should be done. What I'm saying is, how can you not understand someone's unwillingness to do so? Palestinians are hated by all others in the Middle East. Really, Lou? See, I've got to, and I'm hoping this will help me do it. I need to get my bearings stronger on the Middle East, because I want to have more quality opinions on the Middle East. And that this is one of the reasons I brought this topic up, because as far as my own, I love political discourse, obviously, but as far as my own leaning, so on and so forth, I think internationally is where I'm weakest with my knowledge, so I like learning more. The U.S. should mind their own business. I don't disagree with that, Newbie One Kenobi, in a lot of instances. I don't think we can entirely mind our own business like Switzerland, though, because we are the most powerful nation from a military standpoint in the world, and there is a responsibility that comes with that. I mean, there truly is. I don't think the U.S. can or should ever completely mind their business. I do, however, believe the U.S. should pick their battles much, much more selectively. We don't need to be involved in everything. I think we need to be involved as far as making sure that our tried and true, that our own national security is, first and foremost, and that the security of our true allies is of utmost importance. Outside of that, there's a lot of things we get involved with that. Yeah, I agree. We need to back off sometimes. Doesn't always have to be about us. We can't police the entire world. I agree, Luminary. We're responsive. Yes, we're 100% on that, Luminary. You and I see that the exact same way. Again, we can't. We couldn't be neutral. That's not feasible. It would change the world dynamic. But because we do have a responsibility when you have the military might that the U.S. does, but we do need to. What do you guys think? Now, this is where you guys can inform me. What do you guys think? And I understand the whole situation with Russia, the annexation of Crimea, and the whole thing with the Ukraine. What do you guys think? The Americans that are here, well, actually, I'll open it up to everybody. I shouldn't say that, just the Americans. But what do you guys think should be America's level of involvement in the whole Russia, Crimea thing? The whole Russian-Ukraine situation. What do you think? Crimea River. Well done, Luke. Yeah, I agree with you, Luminary. We can cut back on our influence. I agree with that. Have to help anyone, but sometimes we have to keep from a total shit world. Exactly, Mario. Yes, we do. Some wars now they want to deploy troops in Yemen. Wouldn't it be better if you guys focused your own country, increase your strength on the inside? Well, this is what we're alluding to, Mercy. I think we are spread too thin. I think we get involved. Now, when you can make a strong case that something directly affects us, that's different. But you can't always in some of the conflicts we're in. Someone else? No, I don't think if Kim is killed, someone else, it will result in a world war. Just my opinion, Filthmonger. No, I don't, because I don't think Kim has enough true allies left in the world. No matter who takes them out, I think people might scream about it, yell about it, stamp their feet about it, but I don't think a world war could start over North Korea. Too much involvement. That's true. Of ourselves, we cannot let Russia become imperialistic and start trying to occupy Ukraine. Interesting, Luminary. That's what I want to see. I want to see what everybody thinks about that. Very, very interesting. Absolutely no involvement whatsoever. Fuck their problems. We have our own. Okay. They shouldn't involve in something that isn't their problem because it will make bigger war. Okay. Legit. America. I love getting you guys' feelings on this stuff. America really needs to stop getting involved, especially since they don't fully understand what they're doing. George makes a point. We've made some pretty bad faux pas over the years with who we sided with. I'm worried for our South Korean allies too, Luke. Very much so. And Brandon says, I think the U.S. should only be involved with their allies and maybe cut back a bit and let our allies handle things. Yes, agreed. Frenzied Chaos says, I think America needs to solve its own problems before fixing other countries. I don't think America should be in the business of fixing other countries at all. Regardless of what our problems may be at home, I don't think we should be involved in fixing others' problems. Now, if we're talking about defending allies from aggressive, I don't want to say aggressive nations or aggressive factions, that's a different thing. But no, we shouldn't be in the problem-solving business for other nations. Yes, I am USA through and through. Very much consider myself a patriot, but Luke is right. We do have a habit of causing instability in regions. That's unfortunate, but it's true. It's undeniable. It's true. Weapons of mass. How about invading them? I don't think an invasion in North Korea works out well for anybody, because an invasion is just going to get a nuke tossed at South Korea and probably Japan. Now, hopefully, the THAAD system can take care of that, but unfortunately, I think for me, the only military, obviously a military move is what you keep as a last ditch effort or a last line. The only military move is to obliterate them, because if we don't go in there, missiles blazing, whatever he has for whatever nukes he can adequately transport are going to be fired off immediately. So it's going to have to be fast and furious. We're going to have to go in, just obliterate everything we have as far as intelligence. Everywhere that we think there might be a nuke has to immediately, or a missile, be taken out. And then you got to just hope, and for those of you who believe in such things, and pray that the THAAD system can take care of any missiles that get through. But I don't think you can occupy North Korea. I think that ship has sailed. Make North Korea Trump's leg. Hi, gaming, but not really. Obliteration is, yeah, unfortunately, gaming. What he says, I mean, I'm it's not a proponent of that. It's not something that makes me happy to say, okay, we got to obliterate somebody, because, God, these people in North Korea, these poor bastards that are being so abused by their own government, they're going to have to die. And that sucks because of this psychopath. But if there is a war, I think that's the only option. Am I Blitzkrieg? Exactly, Joe Kronik. Am I wrong, guys? I mean, now we're not saying that we think war needs to take place now. Let's make that clear. We're saying if it comes to the point where North Korea has to be reined in militarily, there's no other option to keep us and allies safe. There's no other option than obliteration, is there? If there is, I can't think of it. And I don't even necessarily mean with nukes, because then you got fallout and everything. I don't think we need nukes to obliterate North Korea, to be honest with you. Who is in a worse position, though, South Korea or Israel? Whoa, that's a toss-up, Tal. Neither one of them are in enviable spots. I don't think you can make a worse. They're both bad. I'm glad you guys agree with me. Casualties will happen, yeah. And when I ask you guys this stuff, like I say, if you got anybody that has a differing opinion, by all means, let me know. But I don't see any other option. If we go in at anything other than full bore, it's just going to create more casualties. Yeah, see, that makes me feel good. At least, yeah, it's gonna exactly, Luke. I don't think we have to go in nuclear. We can go in Moab, absolutely. Moab and carpet bombing. If it comes down to war with North Korea, the bottom line, the deciding factor of how well it goes or how well it could go is going to be how good our intelligence is. If we have really good intelligence, because we have the weaponry to take out any target, we just got to know where those goddamn targets are. If we know where the critical targets are, we might be able to keep any damage to South Korea and Japan to an absolute minimum. South Korea more so than Japan. I think there's a real good chance that our systems over there, even if they did get off a missile towards Japan, I think we might be able to take them down. That has tested well so far. No, North Korea can't beat us at all, Tal. No, they can't. But that's not the issue. The issue is how many South Koreans, Japanese, etc. will they kill when push comes to shove. Yeah, and again, it's not comforting to know that North Korea has an ICBM that can reach the states, the mainland states, but would it get here? Probably. I can't imagine it would. I don't think they can arm one with a nuke right now anyway, but even if they could, I don't think it makes it here. What news network stations do you watch? I feel both different. Yeah, Dan, it's so hard to find any news to watch. And it really, what's up, pal? Oh, and it's really, like I say, I'm pissed off at CNN simply because I love CNN. I used to watch it all the time. That's where I went for my news. And I don't like biased or slanted news reporting. In the old days, you could always tell they leaned left. But it was nothing like what it is now. And it pisses me off because now I got no place to go. I watch a little bit of everything and try and just pick through the shit. Try to pick the corn kernels out of the shit, basically. I guess is the best analogy for it. Because you're right, they all have a slant. So I get news from all sides and throw out the stuff I don't even pay attention, or turn off the stuff when they've just gone balls out one way or the other. Exactly. The aftermath. Well, see, what I think too, Joseph, and England is my city. I don't have a lean, to be perfectly honest with you, Mario. I mean, if I did, I'd be glad to tell you guys, but like I say, I'm so all over the board. I can't make a lean. Being an atheist, obviously, it'd be very difficult for me to lean right on a lot of things. And I'm very much a law and order, secure borders, personal responsibility type guy, small government type guy. So it's hard for me to lean left. I mean, I go with whatever I personally think is the most fair in any situation. And I honestly don't have a leaning. He's a Nazi. Didn't see any report on Trump getting 2 scoops of ice cream. Yeah, exactly, Connor. Exactly. This is, and that's what I'm talking about. That just kind of superfluous silliness. And if you were reporting on him getting 2 or 3 scoops of ice cream or whatever as a ha ha ha, that's funny, that's cute, that's one thing. But it wasn't. Even the tone and tenor of that report was that he's an asshole because he has to have extra ice cream. It's just like, enough. Just report the news. Don't take a news story and just slant everything to where every variable leans to one side or the other. And that's what they do. That's what CNN does to the left. That's what Fox News does to the right. Anything that's a variable gets a lean. You're independent too, Galahad? Yeah, I don't have a lean at all. I couldn't even make a good case for me to lean either side. Trump eats steak with ketchup. What about? Yeah, you're right. You're a moderate leaning liberal, from what I can tell. No, I wouldn't say that at all. No, I don't. See, I don't see myself as anywhere even close to liberal perspectives. But then again, I don't see myself anywhere even close to hardcore conservative perspectives. That's for sure, frenzied chaos. Yeah, CNN thinks everything is serious. They don't understand sarcasm. They certainly don't understand memes, do they? This dividing factor of America. Yeah, they did. They reported on it like he killed a family of 5. Yes, they went over the top, and they do it all the time. And I understand Trump, whether you're a Trump fan or not, come on, because I voted for him. He's acting like a buffoon. He's being very buffoonish in the way he presents himself, and that irritates me. There's work to be done. And I was a big proponent. I like the idea of a president having a social media presence, because that's one of the great things about social media. I mean, this is the first time in history where you can get perspective right from your leader without it going through the filter of the news stations or anything. And this is how he uses it to take up puerile little vendettas against people. Come on. Use it to connect with us, not to worry about. Yes, we know, and not fake news. We know that CNN slants left. We know that. We know the New York Times tips over to the left side. We know that. Enough. Just stop Germany. They still got to rule Europe, and they're not Nazis. But the UK can't even talk to the Commonwealth without being called imperialists. Yeah, that's legit. That's legit. Well, yeah, Trappist, he's not acting. It's unfortunate because I do like some of his ideas. It's the only reason I voted for him. And I even like some of what he's accomplished and what he's trying to accomplish. But come on with the boorish behavior. Stop being a child. Every leaders have problems. Yes, I agree with that. But the problem think I have with Trump is I've never seen a leader that brings more of the problems onto himself. Every country, every elections. What I would like, but again, it's self-serving because it's how I see things. The way I see our country, what I would like to see, and it'll never happen, I would like to see somebody, and again, I'm not saying this to prop myself up, it's just obviously if I have these feelings, these perspectives, it's what I'm going to want. I would love to see somebody that is honestly 100% right down the middle as president. Because it won't work. You get a senator, you get a congressman that's that way, big deal. You need somebody as president who's right down the middle, who's everything, no matter what comes up, healthcare, immigration, the world in general, whatever comes up is honestly willing to say, okay, you guys from the right, come on in, I want to talk to you. You guys from the left, come on in, I want to talk to you. Here's our issue. What's your solution? Sell me. Get input, honest input from all sides, and then have the balls to make a decision based on that input and go out to the American people and say, listen, this is what I've come up with. This is what they told me from the right. This is what they told me from the left. Here's where I think it works best. Here's what I found as middle ground. Now, this is what I'm going to promote. And then if the American people see that as an honest, the hardcore left, the hardcore right, they're never going to be on board because they want things only their own way. But I think the majority of the country would respond to that. But Kennedy was close to down the middle. He really was. A lot of people don't even realize that Kennedy was a Democrat, JFK. He was. But that's, again, it wasn't as and being an old fart, you saw a lot more centrist, and there's certainly never in the history that I've been alive, as long as my life's been on, there's never been the partisan divide that there is now. Never. Not to this degree. I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, Brandon Dodge, but that's simply because I don't like socialism. I think socialism is a miserable form of government, and obviously that's Bernie's all about socialism. And I think the things he's promoting, he cannot pay for them in the way he says he's going to, and that's been backed up throughout the world and even within this own country. California doesn't have a single payer healthcare system because it was going to cost $400 billion. And California is the state with the largest economy. They are the closest to reflecting the national economy. It can't be paid for. And just the whole system doesn't work. I like a system of government, or I like to live in a society where you have every opportunity to get ahead. I understand that there's always going to be a divide between the rich and the poor. Hey, I'm on the downside of that, but I don't have a problem with it. All I know is I live here and I have every opportunity to make a success of myself, as does everybody else. Not a fan of the Green Party rave just because they're too extremist. I don't like extremists at all. And you don't get too much more extreme than the Green Party. I mean, that's why they can't garner a lot of support. When you have Jill Stein is basically saying, you know, if I get into the White House, and I know I'm going to upset people who agree with the Green Party stance, but the way I see her, she's going to plant flowers, and that's about it, because she's going to be so weak on defense. I think it will change. I think a Green Party president that follows Green Party lines would, within the first 2 years of that person's presidency, change the landscape of the entire world, and not for the better. Let's see. Trump's ego won't allow him to do the job. It's all about ego. You're right about that, Travis. Yes. And again, I'm not a Trump hater. I voted for him, but I don't call myself a Trump supporter. But you're right. It's his ego. His ego is good. And pretty much anybody that's successful in politics has an ego. Barack Obama had a big ego. But you have to have at least a little bit of a handle on it. And to this point, Trump does not. I mean, this constant bickering with the media. We're all aware of the media's bias. Just keep doing your business. I need to wait 2 years to vote, unfortunately. It's coming up soon, Joe. Trust me, time goes by so goddamn fast. In the earlier stream, the stream on the main channel, I found that out today. Holy shit. Well, thank you, Mario. I enjoy having you guys. This is a lot of fun for me. Has nothing to do with the race, everything to do with culture. Ben Shapiro. I like Ben Shapiro. Again, you know, he can be a bit extremist for me sometimes, but I enjoy listening to him. As a Green Party, I just like the Green Party because it's climate change stance. Right, and now there's and Rave, I'm with you there. I get that. In any party or in any political leaning, there's always something to be, I think there's always something positive to be had. Like you say, with them, it's climate change. But they're so weak in other areas. Yeah, I did not agree at all with what do you guys feel about this? I did not agree with pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. I understand why he did it, and I think he did it with some solid reasons, but I don't think he needed to pull out. It wasn't a binding agreement anyway. I think he could have gone to all parties involved, explain why it's a bad deal for the U.S., and I think to a certain degree it was. Again, we're being left on the hook for a lot, and said, listen, I'm not going to back out of this agreement as it stands, but you guys got to make this a little bit more fair for all the players involved, or I may have to. I think it was grandstanding to just back out of it without real conversations with the rest of the world first. I don't think you pull out of that. Yeah, I agree, Dan. To me, it was grandstanding, and I hate grandstanding. And don't get me wrong, both sides do it, but I don't like grandstanding. Don't make the big grand play. I'm going to pull us out of the Paris Climate. We understand what your stance is. We understand why you don't like the climate accord. Work with people. Work with the rest of the world. Trust me, they want America involved in it. If you'd have worked with them and said, listen, let's make this change, that change, it could have been negotiated. Spend money on both. Well, look, the thing of it is, okay, as far as climate change goes, now, you guys know me, I'm no scientist. A majority of scientists do tell you that climate change is real. No doubt about that. There are a number of scientists who tell you that climate change is not real and we're not affecting the planet's climate. All that given, and with me having no real scientific knowledge at all, just what I read that smarter people, the things I read that smarter people than me write, why don't you err on the side of caution there? That's the way I look at it. So if we have to make some changes, if we have to do some adapting, just in case the climate scientists are right, why not do it? I mean, doesn't that make more sense? It does to me anyway. 97 out of 100. Well, it depends, Luminary, on it's not necessarily 97 out of 100 because I looked into that. That 97 out of a specific 100 was surveyed, but come on, we all know we can make any survey look the way we want if we dig around enough. Look at what Seattle did. Look at what Seattle did, and I thought this was comical. I don't know if you guys caught this, but you can tickle everyone's asshole. Think about NATO. For the time being, I think NATO is, do I want to say a good thing or necessary? In any event, I think it's necessary for the time being. What I think about the Muslim ban, I don't really get it. I do think Trump was right. I do think they're right in that it's not a Muslim ban. We understand that those countries that are part of the ban are largely Muslim. I think what he's trying to do is prevent terrorists from getting into the country. The reason I don't necessarily agree with the Muslim ban is from everything I've been able to determine, everything I've read, everything I've experienced and seen, we had a pretty good vetting process in place. I'm all for upping the vetting. The vetting should be, just unbelievable. It should be very, very, very difficult to get into this country from anywhere right now because of the nature of the world. Not because we're assholes, because of the nature of the world. But I think again, the travel ban itself, I think was another grandstand play. I don't think it was necessary at that time. I think you could have just as easily said, okay, I'm the president now. This is where we take the vetting process to. We're ramping it up. I do not think we needed a 6-month, 3-month, whatever window of keeping people out to accomplish that. That's my opinion. Oh, Seattle. Thank you, CC. I lost my train of thought. Seattle raised the minimum wage to $15. Now, I'm not a fan of that. I think the federal minimum wage should be upped. Absolutely, it's way too low. But maybe in a major city like New York, like Seattle, like LA, you might be able to get away with $15 an hour minimum wage because of the already existing cost of living. But what made me laugh was, and you guys would probably know the universities involved. So the city of Seattle commissioned a university to do a study on the effects of the $15 an hour minimum wage. Well, the one university that was doing it, as they were determining that it had had the opposite effect and that now there were less low-paying jobs, and basically, long story short, it was unfolding to be where it was going to be a horrendous move. It was going to make things much worse for the bottom-end earners than it did anything to benefit them, which a lot of people said could happen. So what does the city of Seattle do? They pulled the funding from that university and gave the funding to another university to start doing the survey, to start giving the report on how it's doing. Now, once you do that, once you're not getting the results you want and you fire that group to hire this group, who the fuck cares what the new group says? How can you even be taken seriously? I don't even care what their report is at this point, because obviously the city of Seattle isn't going to appoint someone else unless they've got a really strong indication that they can get the results they want because they just fired somebody for it. How fucking stupid is that? Is that just me? Whether you believe in the $15 an hour minimum wage or not, you just took away any respectability you have for that survey. And let's see, before people were dropping out, who just supporting the election? Oh, that's a tough one, Tal. There wasn't anybody that really got. See, because I am such a middle of the road guy. You never find anybody. I kind of like Marco Rubio a little bit. Got a lot of things I didn't like about him, but Marco was okay. There's nobody that was making me excited though. It's fuck everything else. Yeah. You're right, Trappist. $15 an hour nationwide would be a catastrophe. Any attack you make on the economy like that, it's going to reverberate. And the thing of it is, if you made $15 an hour minimum wage the national law, first of all, any company like McDonald's or any of them with half a brain, they're going to automate. So immediately you're going to have a lot less jobs out there. Aside from that, there's always that ripple effect. If $15 an hour is the minimum wage and you're paying that to people to flip burgers now, when you have somebody now that's working as an EMT or something for $13, $14 an hour, you can't just raise them to 15. Now you're obligated. You got to get them to 17, 18. It's going to affect the whole economy. No matter how you slice it, unskilled labor, and I did it. I did it for years. It was my first jobs. But I worked, instead of complaining about how much I made, I just worked 2 jobs instead. But that's just the way I did things. But no matter how you slice it, the burger flippers are going to be at the bottom of the pay scale because it's unskilled labor. Now, whether that bottom is $10 an hour or 15, it's still going to be the bottom. There's just going to be a lot less of those jobs. Dan, I feel like the voting age should be lowered. I don't know. I've never really given it much thought, Dan. I'm curious why you think that. I think 18 is fair. If it were 21, I'd have a major issue with it. I think 18 seems to be fair, but by all means, like I say, this is why we have these conversations. Enlighten me if you got a good angle as to why you think it should be less. I'd like to hear it. Yeah, exactly, Treppus. And what he's saying, Whopper meals will be $12. McDonald's has every right. If you make them pay $15 an hour to everybody, they have every right to up their prices so they can still make a profit. That's the way the capitalist system works. And it's a good system. I like it. So you're not gaining anything by ridiculous increases in the minimum wage. Now, if you make reasonable increases in it, then you're allowing the companies to absorb that and not having a huge hit on consumers all the way around. And that's what that study was finding too in Seattle, and that's why the Seattle Council nixed it. Too many retarded college kids voting. I think 18 is fair because that's when you're considering it. I think 18 is fair, Tal. I just think of myself at 16 or Spaz kid at 16. Now he'll be 18 in February. Now his knowledge of the world around him from the time he was 16 just until now at 17 and over a half has increased exponentially. I think he would make much better decisions, and I don't try and influence him. I want my children to find their own way, find their own thoughts. But I think he would make a much, much better decision now than he would have at 16. Capitalism is a great system. It ain't broke. I agree, Tal. I like the capitalist system. Granted, there's a lot of issues with it. The capitalist system is good. The way politicians manipulate the system is bad. That's the way I feel about it. At 7 1/4, but increase to solve. Yes, again, Luminary. You and I go right down the road together on most of these things. That's exactly where I had said. I think the 7 1/4 minimum wage nationally. Now remember, the national minimum wage, all that is the bottom bar for the states. The states can create their own minimum wage, and that's how you have to do it. You have to do it locally. You can't have the same minimum wage where I live here in upstate New York in a depressed rural economy that you have down in New York City. It'd be ludicrous in either event, whether we had to bring ours up to theirs or theirs were able to bring theirs down to ours, it would destroy either economy. So that's why the federal guideline is just to make sure that at least there's a reasonable minimum. And I agree, 7 1/4 is not reasonable. And especially with how many years it's been since it's been up. I think you could immediately tomorrow take it to 9 and have little to no effect on the economy with an eye towards getting it to like 10.50 over the next couple of years. I think you could phase that in easily. But 15, no way. Oh, absolutely. Luminary, capitalism is good, but it needs strict limitations because it can get toxic out of hand. Absolutely it can. How long do you give Sweden to live? They have taken in more military-aged migrants. Oh, it's not good. What I see coming out of Sweden, George, is not good. It's not good. I don't see, certainly Sweden is not going to be the same place in 5 years that it is now. You're bringing in, you have a whole different culture living there now and beginning to take over there now. And from what again, I don't live there. All I know is what I get through the news and what I see on, independently, what you can see through videos on YouTube or wherever. It's not good. And it makes me sad. It really does. 21 is a reasonable drink. See, Luke, I like 18 as the voting age. I really do. I think 18, you should, hopefully you've lived enough life, you've paid attention enough that you should be able to make a reasonable voter at the polls. What I don't like is every year, you know what I don't like is the get out the vote things. Actually, tell me what you guys think of this. Tell me if you agree with this. I hate that every year around election times we have to hear, get out the vote. It's your duty. Get out there and vote. No, if you're not interested, if you don't know anything about the people or the policies involved, don't vote by all means. Who wants uninformed voters? There's no crime in that. If politics aren't your thing, if you're one of these people and they're out there, they're just like, I don't give a rat's ass who's in charge. And a lot of people, it's just because they're just discouraged. And so they're just like, hey, I don't give a shit. This country's going to be shit, or this country's going to be this or that, no matter who's in charge. Don't vote. What is this? Get out the vote. Get out the vote. How about get interested in who your elected leaders are? Let's see. Voting is exactly. It should be a choice, and you shouldn't be encouraged to do it if you don't have any interest in it. You can be tried. There's that. Yeah, Dan makes a point. You can be tried as an adult at 16 because you have the capacity to make an adult decision. However, though, you have to remember, though, Dan, those cases are on an individual basis, and voting would not be. Because at 16, you are still a minor, so you can also be charged as a minor for a crime. You see what I'm saying? Whereas in voting, that wouldn't be the case. Then you're saying all 16-year-olds can make adult decisions. That's one of the reasons why I would like it at 18. You can join the army and should be allowed to vote. Absolutely. I agree with that, Hakaishin. If you're over there, and there's a lot of young men and women between 18 and 21 in the military protecting and serving this country, so you're damn well right. They can be over there getting shot at. They sure as hell can get in the voting booth. We vote for, and if you vote for by your fellow American, no one should have to be ashamed of who they vote for. I do think it's important. Exactly, Tal. That's my point. If you're one of these people, and I think it's a very small minority, but if you're one of these people that have just thrown your hands up to the whole system and you're like, fuck it, I don't care, and I don't pay any attention to politics, don't vote. Why do we want uninformed votes out there? That's all I'm saying. This trying to make people feel guilty if they don't vote. Now, I get the whole thing of don't complain about your government if you don't vote. I get that. But what you're saying there is learn about your government and then vote. Luminary says 16-year-olds are idiots. Take it from one. We can be charged an adult from 12. That's true, Poppy. Yeah, it can be even younger than that. And like I say, but when you're talking about charges, it's on an individual basis. Agreed, CC? Hands up, don't shoot. That's a good point, Mario. We had touched on Black Lives Matter earlier. That's where I think Black Lives Matter drops the ball, and a lot of people drop the ball. That hands up, don't shoot when it never happened. All that does is weaken your cause. And I hate to see that because I'm a law and order guy. But as a law and order guy, that extends to the police. If the police are acting inappropriately, I want them to face consequences too. But you do nothing to support the cause of making sure that police officers are doing the right thing by running around going, hands up, don't shoot, when that was never said. And that doesn't even adequately describe the situation that took place. That young man was being aggressive towards a police officer, without question now, from what we know from all the forensics and everything. He was charging the police officer and he got shot. It's unfortunate, but he was a participant in his own demise. Don't vote if you don't want to vote. I just don't want to vote, but just if they want change. Right, exactly. If you don't learn about the government enough to learn who you want to vote for, then how do you come off complaining? I agree. We've been talking a little bit of everything, Jackson, but the main topic is the U.S.'s international policies. Clan with a tan. I wouldn't go that far, Chrome, because I think there are some people within Black Lives Matter. I think the movement was started for noble reasons, and I think some noble people still exist within it, but it's been perverted by extremists. Joe Chronic. You'd get like 58 pounds a day. Joe, wow, really? Is that? I don't have any idea the pay scales, of course, overseas. Our teachers here are not. I think most of them would agree they're paid all right. I mean, it's not a top paying job within our economy, but it's decent paying jobs. Hey, Steve, good to see you. EU should be dissolved. You think so, Luke? I like getting opinions on that. There's a lot of thugs that hijack BLM, basically, Mario, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it's the extremists and the loudmouths that get all the attention for BLM. And that's why a lot of people, again, right from its core, when they started saying Black Lives Matter, I was like, okay, I get that. And again, they're not saying it because they don't think all lives matter. They're saying it because they think that it needs to be stated that Black Lives Matter, because a lot of people don't seem to believe that. That's what they're saying. So I got that, but it's unfortunate that the movement has been hijacked by extremists. 50 to 70K average luminary. But that's just the nature, unfortunately, of the economies. It's tax dollars. There's just not many of them to go around. I can give you an example because I retired from a municipality. I work for a local city. Now, what you have to remember within those teacher structures, because this affects me personally, what they do get is great benefits for the most part, though. Now, I was a truck driver. There were places left and right all over the place that I could have made almost double my salary, and I made a decent salary. But trucking pays big money. If you want to go over the road or drive for a construction company, you can make huge money, but little to no benefits at all. So I stayed 25 years working for that municipality at less money because we had great benefits. So you do have to factor that in when you talk about the teachers. Generally, at least in New York, and I think throughout the country, school districts have excellent benefits. Exactly. Teacher pay is set by city and state. Right. It's all done on a local level. But again, across the board, the benefits are generally really, really good. And that's worth a lot of money. Let's see. BLM creates segregation. I agree with that. Currently, it does, yes. It's more that education is underfunded in general, I think. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. My mom is a teacher, does not make a huge amount of money. My dad is CEO and makes 100K plus a year. There you go, Tal. And again, whether or not that's fair is everybody's individual opinion. It is what it is. Teacher pay isn't as good as many of us would like it to be, but it's just the harsh realities of the economy nowadays. But again, you always have to factor in, because again, I'm speaking from experience here. You have to factor in those benefits. The only reason, the one and only reason I was able to retire at 55 from my day job was the great benefits. If I didn't have them, I'd still be working. I wouldn't have a choice. Most black deaths are caused by other black people, so I should care about BLM when they can't follow their own ideals. Well, that's the unfortunate thing, Marshall, and I understand that sentiment, but it's too bad because, again, I think BLM was founded for noble reasons, and I think it's been perverted by extremists. It really is unfortunate. It's too bad there was never any real cohesiveness or leadership within BLM to give it guidance. My ex is a teacher and got way better benefits than I make nearly twice as much. Sure. So Justin, yeah, Justin's outlining exactly what I just said. Throughout my working career, I could have made a ton more money driving for other companies, but no benefits. And they're worth a lot. Hey, I am a goal. Good to see you, Pal. Pal, I can almost say the P sound. Do you think unions are too powerful in the UK? One union has a majority of the control over nearly every major industry, from transportation to industry. Really, George? I know the unions are powerful in the UK. I can't really speak intelligently about it because I don't know how powerful. But if that's the case, put it this way, do I think unions can become too powerful? I was in a union most all my life, and absolutely they can. Absolutely. Unions can be a great thing. Unions can be a huge detriment. Unions, through my own experience, keep people working in jobs that shouldn't have those jobs. Thank you, that kid gamer. I've had, as a union rep, I had to save jobs of people. It's one of the reasons I stopped being a union rep, because I was contractually obligated to save the jobs of people that shouldn't even have the job. That should have been let go, and that job should have been filled by somebody who wanted to handle the job properly. That's one of the reasons I stopped being a union rep. Unions can be a good thing, but they really fuck things up. Exactly. I agree that 100%. Unions can be a great thing, and unions can be a huge detriment, especially with their history of criminal behavior. Okay, Tal, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it, my friend. I enjoy these so much. Construction union. Oh, we've had a lot of corrupt construction unions in America. That's for damn sure. The United Union rules nearly every part of the industries, and they work for the Labor Party. Yeah, that's a lot of pop when you've got a union with that much influence, and then the union has that much influence within the government. I agree with you. That's not a good thing. Unions prevailing wage makes government spend more money. I didn't think about it from that perspective either. R.W. Bimby. Yeah, so you're having an effect on the entire nation's economy. So where does that leave people that are outside of the union? Yeah, that's very true. If the EU continues with their anti-nation state and anti-native behavior, they'll face major backlash. I agree with that, Luke. I think you're starting to see a lot of that backlash now. It's fortunate that I've seen in the UK and throughout Europe, they've been able to effectively thwart several terrorist plots over the last couple months. Because man, I'm in America and could feel it starting to boil over with all the terrorism issues over there. Yeah, Marshall, you're British, I take it then. We're fucked after leaving the EU, really? Now, you think so? And again, this is where I ask you guys to educate me on things. You think so? How do you mean fucked though? From a financial standpoint, mostly, are you talking? Europe could have shit ton of revolution soon, and maybe even bloody ones. That's what I'm afraid of, Galahad. I'm really afraid of that. Because one thing that having this channel has done is given me a huge appreciation and admiration for Europeans, with all as many of you as I've met on here and what I've learned from you on here, and I hate to see it happen. Eastern European countries that are part of the UE especially are starting to get pissed off. I see that, Chrome. I do see that. My union is fucked up. Our bosses are in the same union. They're in bed with the city. That goes on all the time, Treppus. I used to be in the Teamsters union years ago, and almost had a fist fight with our union rep, which probably isn't a good idea with a Teamsters union rep, because they're so involved in the mob, especially back then. But yeah, because he was so there was no question about it. He was taking kickbacks from the companies he was supposed to be representing us to. And I called him out on it, and he didn't like it. And so I ran to the front of the room, and they pulled us apart. U.S. got a revolution soon. Lexington was... I'm not sure I found that, RW. Maybe Lexington was government gun control fail. Lexington? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you think it is possible to implement it properly? Communism or socialism? Well, it depends on what you mean by properly, I am a ghoul. To me, are they quality forms of government and would I want to live under them? Absolutely not. If you say can be implemented properly, well, sure. I mean, I think you can have a socialist or communist government that's implemented by the design of socialism and communism. Well, sure. But do I think they're good forms of government? For me, no. No. No, like I said, I very much like our form of government. I just don't like how the politicians manipulate it. Sound good, an idea, but asking work to human nature. I think that's true to a certain degree, Luminarian. I don't even think they sound good, well, in ideals, I guess, more than idea. Because, yeah, sure, the idea of health care for all and college for all and this for all and that for all and everybody reaching out to take care of everybody else, it might sound good to some people. To me, as soon as I hear that, it's like, well, wait a second, who the hell pays for this? So I don't like the idea, and socialism and communism, as far as I'm concerned, both take this attitude. I don't like the idea of, here, let's all make our money, put it in a big pile and split it up evenly. I like a system of government where the more you put into things, the more you can get out of it. If you want to be a success, you can be a success. That's why I don't, even though I'm far from a rich guy, not even close, but I am not in favor of anything where, like Bernie's proposals or other extreme left proposals where, okay, well, we'll tax the rich at a certain level until they make whatever, $2.5 million, $5 million. Then after that, we're going to tax them at 90%. No, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And again, why is it okay to be so discriminatory against a group just because that group is unpopular? And that's what you're doing. You're financially totally discriminating against the rich because they're rich. If you want to take care of the rich, get rid of their tax loopholes. Just make them pay their fair share. That's all people want. Tax them at a higher rate, absolutely, than the average Joe, but not at exorbitant rates. Let's see. Free everything only works when other people pay for it. Exactly. R.W. Bimby. And that's what a lot of people, and I've still had anybody explain to me, especially in our capitalist society now, how we're supposed to transform to socialism. I think socialism also, I think one of the, I think socialism inhibits creativity as well. I think in a way, I think socialism takes away a lot of people's impetus to find that next big advancement, whether it be in medicine or whatever the case may be. Function in small rural counties, with diverse countries like the U.S. The smaller central government is better leaving states and cities to their thing. I agree with that, Justin. Yes, I agree with that. Right down the line, I agree with that. Russell, have you heard of Venus Project? I've heard of it, Galahad. I'm familiar with the basic tenets of it. The resource-based economy with no money. Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know enough about it to make an intelligent comment on it. I don't see how it would work, but that's because I don't understand it. You know, if I read up more on it, but my initial indication is, yeah, that sounds socialist to me. The biggest problem right now, both domestically and worldwide, is us against them mentality. Oh, without question, Dan. I think even more so. Well, I feel 100% more so domestically, even, Dan. Like, yeah, completely agree with you there. Monarchy and dictatorships kill human spirit. Absolutely. Look at North Korea. That's what I feel for is the North Korean people who know nothing of the outside world. It's just so sad. It really is. When it comes to unions, know about how much money they can make. True. City has started firing us for going payless, and the union said, "Okay, it's not right what happened to fighting for us." Yeah, unions are a definite double-edged sword. No doubt about it. Socialism actually encourages independence. I don't see it, Colonel Gerdoff. I don't. I'd like to hear more of how you come to that conclusion because I don't see it. The U.S. can't have a weak central government in today's world. It's unfortunate, but we can't give it all to the states. We still don't limit the federal government's influence. Oh, I agree with that, Luminary. Yeah, I agree. I think the federal government has to have influence, absolutely. But I believe there are some things that even economically, some of that influence should just be passed through to the states to distribute. Yes, I think for our system to work well at all, I think you have to have a nice, even blend of federal, state, local influence into the economic structure. Let's see. Oh, radical Islam does. Yes, we need to crush it. I agree without question. I think we've made some good strides towards that. I think things have gone really as well as can be expected. I mean, well, it's a state of war, but things are moving ahead well in Iraq. Yeah, I think they're doing some good things on that front. Social countries like Norway and Sweden have the best human development index, and that may be true. I am a goal, but you got to remember there when you're talking Sweden or Norway in respect to the U.S., it's just completely, literally worlds apart, but figuratively worlds apart as well. You're talking about a capitalist society that has always been a capitalist society of 350 million versus countries that are much more, way more spread out as far as their populace and their history in government. Well, we're talking, right, we're talking, well, at least I was anyway, Paul. I didn't see all the comments. We're talking about Islamic extremists. We're not talking about Islam in general. Radical Islam can go down in the Bukkake tsunami. Is an ideal, and it's hard to kill. You're right, Luke, because when you're fighting radical Islam, it's not like, it's certainly nothing like fighting a nation. You're right. It's an ideal. It's a concept. It's not, fighting a nation is infinitely more black and white, cut and dried. That's for sure. In the states were more power, so interstate conflict couldn't be solved by a larger power. That's interesting, Luminary. Sweden is the rape capital of the world. Is that true? Because I have heard that before. And, you know, you never know with things you see on the internet and stuff, but I have heard that. I have heard that. I'm more concerned with radical Christianity. I don't know that I would agree with that. Don't get me wrong, radical Christianity exists. And, you know, again, I'm an atheist. But my stance on religion, to be fair, just because I'm an atheist, sometimes I say that I always want to clarify a little more because I don't have an issue with religion at all. So I couldn't because my wife is a Catholic. And I have immense amounts of admiration for my wife, and her religion brings her nothing but peace and tranquility, and I envy that. But my wife is also a Catholic that never got on board with the gays shouldn't be able to get married. Regardless of what the church doctrine said, she's able to have free thought within the guidelines of following her faith. So I think when religion is done properly and it doesn't affect other people, it's a great thing. I really do. It's just, unfortunately, all religion, we're not singling out anybody, all religion or all religious people at some point seem to, certain factions want to take actions against others on behalf of that religion. That's when I start having a problem with it. Ideals can only really be destroyed if people who embrace those ideals destroy themselves. Well, people who embrace those ideals destroy themselves. I don't know that that's 100% true. Ideals can be destroyed by external forces too, unfortunately, compared to other countries like that radical here. Yeah, I agree with that, Brandon. I don't think, yes, I don't think it's as radical here. I agree with that. Let's see. Evolution is a hoax. That actually, I didn't see. Did somebody say evolution is a hoax? I didn't even catch it, Brandon. I try and keep up as best I can, you guys. I apologize when I miss things. Mormons can be crazy, though. Now, Mormons I have a lot of experience with because I used to date a Mormon girl. So I know a little bit about the Mormon religion. And again, hey, do what you want to do. It's not my thing, that's for sure. All I know is they didn't believe. I know the Mormons devoutly do not believe in premarital sex. And not all Mormon girls follow that path. I can tell you that. Radical Islam, better moving to town or preaching school. Okay, you guys. Okay, I'm not trying. I don't want to get involved in conversation you guys are having with each other. In India, in some places, you're forced to cut your dick off and be a girl. I knew nothing about this, Jaguar. Really? Now I know about genital mutilation going on, and that's heinous. I think Islam represents a unique threat in this day and age because the doctrine makes it a lot easier to become a terrorist. Oh, I agree with you completely there, Chrome. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Story time to Curtis dated a Mormon. Yeah, that was years ago, Filthmonger. Well, I lived in Central California at the time, and there was a large Mormon community in where I lived simply because you're just literally just across the mountain from Utah. Yeah, thanks, Kid Gamer. Westboro Baptist Church should end up like they did in Kingsland. Yeah, Westboro. See, that's what I'm talking about. Things like the Westboro Baptist Church. Fuck them. And I actually try and keep the language at a different level here than I do the main channel. But that's all I got. That's the best way I can describe myself. Fuck the Westboro Baptist Church. Where do you think the best place to move is to move? Yeah. Where do you think is the best place to move or to live politically? I don't think there's a lot of really great options out there, Joe. I wouldn't move myself as much as I don't agree with a lot of things our government does. See, I like our system of government. I don't like the way it gets perverted by the politicians. So my ever-enduring hope is that we're going to, at somehow, some way, find some level-headedness at the top of our government and bring things back to where they should be. And the Republican Christians make us look like morons. I can't disagree with their luminary. Yeah, whenever I hear a politician at any level, whenever I hear a politician say, pressed with any issue, when he says, well, he or she says, I prayed on it and I get a little nervous. It's like, listen, and no disrespect meant to anybody's religion, but I don't want you to pray on it. I want you to take the facts. I want you to take all the facts surrounding this situation and come up with what you, as a rational, hopefully rational human being, think is the best course of action. I don't want a deity involved in your thought process. Venezuela is in a world of shit. That's from what I know about it, Chrome. Venezuela is in a world. That's someplace where socialism has really not come out well, worked out well. And Hillary would have been a shitfest as well. Who's your ideal candidate from the primaries? I didn't have an ideal, Dan, unfortunately. Again, I'm so, and I think you guys are seeing this just in our conversations, I'm so down the middle that there's never anybody that appeals to me because that person doesn't seem to exist, at least on a national front. There's bits and pieces from a lot of the candidates that I liked, but even in all fairness, I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan. I like Bill Clinton, don't like Hillary Clinton. But even Hillary had, nobody was without something that I couldn't reach out and say, hey, I agree with that. It's just that the disagreements with Hillary far outweighed the agreements. I liked some of what Marco Rubio had to say, but there was nobody that I was like, yeah, this guy, or yeah, this girl. It didn't happen. Just go right to Canada. The U.S. fucks up. That's true. Hey, I think Canada makes a great neighbor. I don't always agree with everything that Canada does, just like and they certainly don't agree with everything we do with good reason. But I think we got a quality neighbor in Canada. Okay, hey, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I wouldn't want to move, to be honest with you. I want to visit you guys all over the world. I would love to visit different parts of the world, but yeah, I wouldn't want to move. Guys, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to. It's 4 o'clock here. I'm gonna have to kill the stream. I got a bunch of stuff I got to do. Take care of the grandkids. Got some household stuff to do. I'll go put on my French maid outfit. Not gonna leave the cameras rolling for that. You guys have been through enough trauma as it is. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for your ideas. Thank you for your conversation. I absolutely freaking love having this political channel. I can't even tell you guys how much I am just enjoying this to no end, and it's because of you. So thank you very much for hanging out. And I'll be getting another one of these streams up as soon as I can. It should be within the next 2-3 days. You guys know the workload I keep with the other channel and everything else going on. As soon as I can, there'll be another one up. I think soon we got to talk about, we need to talk about immigration. That might be next. Good chance that might be next, but we need to talk about that soon. Guys, thanks so much. You guys are the best. I'll talk to you soon.